All right, I'm doing things a little different today. So, doing it outside in my own yard. Anyways, good morning. Today we continue with Genesis chapter 37, verses 12 through 36. And as always, I encourage you to read this passage personally because it shows how quickly jealousy can turn into action and how God is still working even when circumstances look completely wrong. In verses 12 through 14, Jacob sends Joseph to check on his brothers who are feeding the flock. Joseph, of course, obeys and goes to find them. This is an important piece. Joseph is simply doing what his father has asked. He is walking in obedience, yet that obedience will lead him into difficulty. Sometimes doing what is right does not lead to comfort, but into God's greater plan. In verses 15 through 17, Joseph searches for his brothers and is directed to Dothan. This small detail shows God's providence. Joseph does not randomly find them. God is guiding even these steps. What seems like coincidence is actually direction. In verse 18, the brothers see Joseph coming from a distance and begin plotting against him. Their hatred has grown to the point where they are willing to kill him. This shows how unchecked jealousy can harden the heart and lead to serious sin. In verses 19 through 24, they mock Joseph as this dreamer and throw him into a pit. Reuben intervenes to keep them from killing him, planning to rescue him later. The dream that came from God is now the very thing that fuels their hatred. Joseph is stripped of his coat, the symbol of his father's favor, and cast into a place of helplessness. In verses 25 through 28, instead of killing Joseph, the brothers sell him to these traders. Judah suggests the idea, and they plot from their brother's suffering. Joseph is carried away into Egypt. From a human perspective, everything looks like failure and betrayal. But this is actually the beginning of God's positioning of Joseph for future purposes. In verses 29 through 30, Reuben returns and finds Joseph gone. He's distressed, realizing the plan has gone further than he intended. Sin often moves beyond what we expect once it's set in motion. In verses 31 through 35, the brothers deceive Jacob, dipping Joseph's coat in blood and leading their father to believe he's been killed. Jacob mourns deeply and refuses comfort. The deception that once marked Jacob's own life is now repeated by his son. Sin continues to produce sorrow and brokenness. In verse 36, Joseph is sold into Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Though Joseph is far from home and surrounded by uncertainty, this final verse quietly shows that God is placing him exactly where he needs to be at that time. And this passage teaches us that what looks like disaster may actually be God's direction. Joseph is betrayed, rejected, and removed from everything familiar to him. Yet God is working through it all to accomplish a greater purpose. This passage, of course, also points us to Christ. Just as Joseph was rejected and sold by his own brothers, Jesus Christ was rejected and handed over by his own people. Yet through that rejection, God brought about salvation. Today, I want you to think about this. If you're facing a situation that feels unfair or painful, trust that God is still at work, even when you cannot see it. Remain faithful where you are and believe that God can use even the hardest circumstances in your life to move his plan forward in your life. God bless.